One time. That's all you need is one time. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We're at our first time homebuyer seminar, and we're going to stream this live so that other people that couldn't attend can see it live in action. You can make any sort of comments you want in the below boxes. It'll also be on YouTube. It'll also be on LinkedIn. It'll also be on some people's Facebook pages that you can follow. And you can also follow us on Instagram if you like at the end. So I'm going to jump right into it. This is our first time homebuyer seminar. We're first going to jump in. We're going to have Julie go over a couple things about how to help build yourself, your business, and get a better start overall in life so that you can make improvements long term. Julie?
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. So happy to have you here, and thank you for joining us live. We are in sunny and warm San Diego right now, but I'm delighted to be here. I am an action coach, business and executive coach here in San Diego and other parts of Southern California. And I work with business owners who want more freedom, more money, more time, better systems, more engaged teams, and ultimately to build a business that can work for them while working without them. So delighted to have you here. I'm going to teach you today 3 models that we work through in coaching and with our clients, and to build a business that can work without you. And ultimately, as we're working through these models, you'll get some tips and some strategies that you can implement in your business to ultimately build it so that you can use the profit or use it as an asset to help you with your first property, investment properties, but ultimately getting the business to fuel those personal dreams, okay? So first, I would like to ask, this is the entrepreneurial ladder, okay? We've got an employee of the business. We have self-employed. Self-employed is where you still wear pretty much all of the hats. You're doing the HR and finance, you're out in the field doing operations, you're serving clients, you're doing the finances, you're doing the sales and marketing, right? You have a job, J-O-B, job. So you are self-employed. Well, what we find is that it's the most difficult to move from self-employed to owner, and then of course up to investor, because there has to be someone else or other people here, okay? So this is typically the hardest rung to get through, or at least the rung that takes the most time and strategy. But ultimately moving up to owner, and then of course investor. Owner, where you can take 2 months off and the business still runs without you. You don't have to bring your laptop, you don't have to bring your phone, you can just go and just be in Hawaii or Italy or wherever you choose. But I guess not Italy right now because it's 124 degrees, as we were talking about earlier. So ultimately, as you move up this entrepreneurial ladder, there are strategies and frameworks to implement to be able to build it that way, where you can ultimately become an investor. You can invest in other businesses, you can invest in real estate, invest in yourselves, whatever that looks like for you. And so to move up that ladder, we have what we call 6 steps to build a successful business. Now, these 6 steps, you wouldn't necessarily always just go in order. Depending on where you are in your business, you may need to work your way back down and work on some different things here, or you may be starting out and need to work up. So you can work on multiple steps at the same time, or wherever you are in your business. I'm actually doing a complimentary seminar in August, on August 23rd, at 9 a.m. here at this same space in Mission Valley in San Diego. We'll actually deep dive into these 6 steps and how it can work in your business. But for today, I'm just going to give a brief overview so you can get an idea of how to build a business that can work without you, and ultimately to that investor level, okay? So first we have mastery. This is where we eliminate the chaos. This is where the foundation gets solid. We understand our numbers, we understand our most profitable services or products. We understand where we're going, our destination. Where are we taking the business? Where do we want to be personally? And time, understanding your time and delivery, how long each service takes, how long each task in your business takes, and your time for self-management, okay? And then once we have our foundation laid, we can start marketing, right? So you don't want to turn on the tap if the drain is clogged. So if you need to look at your delivery and there's these gaps in delivery, or maybe you're losing clients and you've got to figure something out, before you start turning on the tap, look at that foundation and see where the challenges are and opportunities. But this is niche, AKA marketing. This is where you get predictable cash flow, your marketing works, you have lead generation strategies that are bringing in predictable leads on a predictable, consistent basis. It's not feast or famine, okay? And you're able to serve them. So, excuse me. And then we move up to leverage, which is essentially where we start to buy our time back. This is systems. And it's not just technological systems. I'm talking about in your business, everything that you do has a system. It is a system. It's an SOP, a standard operating procedure. So it's starting to build those systems to be able to leverage yourself. This is where you can start thinking about who do we need to hire, okay? And then ultimately taking those systems and training someone, hiring the right person and having a system for hiring to be able to train the right person to start taking over these positions and running those systems for you to relieve you of some time and also continue to boost profitability. And then we get into synergy. This is where it's a well-oiled machine. It's where you can take off a month and go on a vacation and you don't have to worry about, a client freaking out and calling you on the phone because everything is running smoothly without you. And it's still making money. You essentially can make money while you're sleeping. You don't have to be there. It's not an owner-dependent business any longer. Maybe you have a general manager, or I have one client who they were trying to have a baby that ended up getting pregnant before she had planned, because the best laid plans. And so what happened was we had to accelerate the leverage in the team and the systems in the team. And she ended up delegating different tasks in different members of their team's strengths so that she could take 2.5 months off after she had her first baby, and then ultimately only work 4 days a week after that, because it was a well-oiled machine and she had the right people in the right seats to run the systems. So just depending on where you're at in your business. And then ultimately getting that results. This is where you get to that investor level. Maybe it's passive income, or you sell the business, use this passive income, or you use your profits towards investment properties, towards your first home. I have a client who actually recently sold her business and used the proceeds to put towards a down payment on a house. So it just depends on where you're at and where you want to be personally. So great, you're going to move up the 6 steps and you're going to build this business to work without you. How does that work? I'm going to show you today, this is what we call the 5 ways. So the 5 ways to profit. When business owners come to me, they typically say they want more sales, more customers, more profit. But I tell them you can't have that directly because those are all results of what we call the 5 ways, okay? So you'll see here in red, these are the results. These are the customers, the revenue, the profit, and those in blue are the 5 ways. There are 5 proven ways to increase your profit. How many ways?
5.
Say that louder.
5.
How many online?
High 5.
All
No
right.
5.
So we've got the number of leads, right? These are the number of people who call, click, write. They're interested in doing business with you, okay? And then of those, how many actually convert to paying clients? So if you have 100 leads that come in on average, we'll do per year, and a conversion rate of 25%, that gives you 25 new customers, okay? And then you multiply customers times how many times do they do business with you on average. Feel free to take a screenshot or a picture too. How many times do they do business with you on average, okay? There may be some that do business with you once a year. There may be some that do business with you 2 times a month, right? So we're looking at the average because we're looking at where can we improve these things. And then we multiply that by how much do they spend every time they do business with you, okay? And I actually can't recall if I plugged in numbers. I'll just plug in some numbers just to give you an answer. So 100 leads times 25% is to 5. And then say to one transaction per year and a value of $10. Right? Okay. So we multiply these together to get our revenue or our sales annually. And then we multiply that times our profit margin, which gives us our profit. Would you move forward on this? Oh, sorry, go back. Okay, thank you. So I don't have my calculator, so I'm gonna try to do this as everybody. So what is this, 2,500, 25,000? It's gonna help me.
0.25 times.
2,500.
I can't see it.
2,500.
Thank you. Let's call this weekly, all right? Let's call this weekly. All right. And then, if somebody can do this for me, 2,500 times 50%.
12.50.
Thank you. All right. So here's how it works, right? Now, this is, we'll say this is a weekly, okay? So if weekly, you're bringing on average 100 leads, 25 of those convert to new customers who do on average 1 transaction per week at $100. That gives you $2,500 a week, and your margin's 50%. That leaves you with $1,250 in profit. Now this is, when you think of that times, 52 weeks, right? It gets bigger. But here's the magic of the 5 ways. Because with a 10% increase across each of these blue areas, each of these 5 ways, no matter what, you will always get a 61% increase in revenue and a close to 50% increase in profit. So if I increase this and I boost my marketing and I get 10 more leads a week and I boost this another 10 by 10%, turn that into 27.5, right? We can't do that right now. But ultimately,
27.
Usually I have this on my slides, so I don't have to try to do math in front of everybody. I always use my calculator.
30.25.
What's that?
30.25.
Okay, it's open. Right, and I'm gonna boost this by 10%. This. That.
30. Yeah, 30. Yeah, 3.5.
What? Sorry.
33.25.
And we got times. Use this 10%. What's that? 10% better.
5.5.
What's that?
18.28. 75.
Can you multiply that times 52?
95.
25,000.
95.
So it's like 35K increase.
What would you do with an extra almost $100,000 in profit in your profit account?
I reinvest in my own business.
That actually directly correlates to you.
Mhm.
Directly correlates to you. Because you're running power washing.
Right.
So you can pick up, if you pick up 10% more people per week, that's what you get. That's interesting. I was thinking about your business while this was going on.
So this is the power of the 5 ways. This is the power of understanding the key metrics in your business and how they can improve. And then of course, what then will you do with this, right? Having a strategy for the money. And that's where these guys come in. Let's talk about that. Thank you very much. If you have questions,
Where can we find you?
You can find me online, jsgactioncoach.com, and we'll put up all of our numbers here on the whiteboard before we leave today. So if you have questions, write them down, and I'll be able to, and we can chit chat after the show. Sound good? All right. Thank you.
Boom. So we're going to jump right into this. So you looked at things from, there we go. Okay. So we looked at everything from the perspective of a business owner, looking at things of what do you do with extra money. And extra money is kind of nice because it's always better to have more money than less money. So me and Vinny started out this slide to look at it to go, how many people out there can have a $3 million net worth in 9 years? Kind of a hard target. You can't save that money that quick. You can't earn that money that quick either. And your compound rate of interest is probably not going to get you there either. So there's only a couple ways to do it, and one of the key ways is through leverage. So we looked at this and said, well, you get to $3 million in 9 years. How did you make it there? And this is actually Quentin Tarantino style. We're doing it backwards just to confuse you, in case you're wondering. And you're going to get there by staying on budget, staying on target, using leverage, using compound interest, maximizing tax write-offs to build your wealth. So at the end of 9 years, our goal, mine and Vinny's, is ultimately have you to where you have a $3 million net worth. So how do we do it? Well, we have to take a look at beginning your home ownership plans. So myself, Vinny, we've been doing this for a long time. And for some people, you should not buy a home. For other people, it's a great idea, but it's not for everyone. And how do you evaluate how or why or should you even buy a home is by this. Evaluate your career stability. Look at your career path, your growth potential. Do you have any? Or is your job going to be eliminated by ChatGPT in a month? Do you understand your budgeting habits? Do you make 401k contributions? Do you have an emergency fund? What about your vacation, your lifestyle goals that you have? Because buying a house is great, but if you can't do anything else outside of your house, you have a terrible life. The amount you can put for your down payment. Or do you need grant or down payment assistance? And what is your ideal monthly payment? Because you're going to notice Vinny's going to say something all the time. It's always focused on
Month to day.
Oh man, I was about to do that thing.
Well, so let me jump in real fast on this. All right, so going over stability, and I know we're going to get into a little more. There's, especially for business owners out there, there's a difference between actually what you tell them to take relative to what you're actually taking home because all the write-off. So really something to think about as a business owner is looking at, okay, well, I want to set myself up for success, right? So if you're going to W-2 yourself, you really want to make sure that you're W-2 yourself at a higher price, or you can do bank statement loans. So things to think about when you're kind of laying the groundwork. So just because maybe in your taxes it doesn't look like you make that much, right? Yeah. You really want to factor it in if you're thinking about buying in 6 months to a year from now. You really want to assess, okay, what am I actually doing compared to what am I telling them I'm doing? If that makes sense.
That does make sense. So we're going to look at the steps. This is how you should ideally be starting the whole home buying process.
So when you ideally want to start the home buying process, it's not as difficult as everyone thinks. You don't just log on to Zillow or Redfin and you just start picking properties. Because one thing's for sure, you will pick a property that's too expensive for you, and then you can't buy it, then you're discouraged, and then everything sucks. So let's take a look. How do we get started? Number one, you need to know where your finances are. So we put this together just so you can actually pick a loan officer who will actually help you, and then hopefully you like them, you can trust them, and there's someone you can rely on as a long-term resource. Number one, step one, get a trusted referral from an honest agent. You're going to notice I'm going to repeat things quite a bit about honest agent, integrity, people look out for you. That's because a lot of people in our industry do not. And I hate to say that, we've been in it a long time, but 80% of people don't care. So pick someone that you actually can trust. Number two, go to Yelp or Zillow or Google. Google's a brand new website for those of you who don't know. You can Google people. If you pick your lender and you type in their phone number and nothing shows up on Google, what do you think that means? They're doing nothing. So research your loan officer. Step number three, You can check the loan officer's license number. We all have licenses. It tells you how experienced we are. Did we just get in the business? Or did we just start last week and prior to that I was making snow cones? Nothing against snow cone makers, but you want to know who you're dealing with. So always research out your lender.
Well, and something to think about these. So last year we had 50% of all realtors in San Diego County didn't sell one piece of business. 20% on top of that only sold one piece of business. So you're talking about 70% sold less than one piece of business. And being a business owner, things can get you want to get a little creative with what you're looking to purchase. Maybe you're buying a property that has the residential and commercial. It's going to be your office too, right? So you have to look outside the box. Right now, if your realtor and your lender can't get creative with it because maybe they've only sold one piece of business in the last year, are they really going to find you the option that's going to work best for you, right? So you really want to make sure that when you're talking to whatever lender or whatever realtor, that they understand the process, they're willing to be creative with an individual like yourselves that are going to need some creativeness because you're buying a property as a business owner.
Thank you. Step number 2. We're going to need to do a loan application. We have to know, can you qualify? So loan application, it's a financial undressing. Is it something that's great? No. Is it painful? Yes. Is it painful? Yes. Will you enjoy it? Probably not. That's why you really need to pick someone you like that can make the process easy. It's a hard question. You even pay yourself. And you're wondering, how do I get a loan? We do bank statement loans now. We also do other loans that you can do if the property supports itself. So don't be discouraged if you're an owner that's tax resources. Don't be discouraged. There is a way to help you out.
Well, and
Question.
what was the question?
Could I buy the property with the business? Under the business?
Yeah. Well,
I'll let that later on.
No. So the thing to think about too is you technically can. I mean, most things you can do. It's just a matter of the interest rate you want to do. So you're going to be usually better served by W-2ing yourself as an employee, right? And then that allows this just he's the lender, but it's gonna allow you a little better to get better interest rates, especially with interest rates that currently sit. Maybe in 6 months from now, a year from now, interest rates are gonna be a lot lower. But you got to think that what is it like a percentage point, 2 percentage points?
No, it's gonna probably be almost 3. It's
like we're thinking about buying a property as an investment.
Yeah.
Not as like for a cool.
you would not want to buy it through the corporation.
No.
We typically want a 5-year record of the corporation, and we want to be profitable for 5 years. The interest rates are typically 3 points higher. I would not recommend it. And you're better off as a business owner utilizing bank statements and buying it showing your bank statements.
And something to think about, are you going to buy, would you buy the property here locally or would it be out of area? Okay, so then you think about too, you're talking about 1 percentage point higher as an individual buying as your primary residence compared to buying as an investment property, right? And so that can play a big factor in it. So sometimes you want to look at, okay, well, instead of buying, because in San Diego it's a little bit tough for cash flow positive, but maybe you get creative with it and say, okay, that's going to be your office and basically a rental property or a duplex like that. You're going to be living in one of the units, buying the other one. So primary residence now, the rate goes a little lower.
A lot lower.
Yeah, so just things to kind of think about on that kind of stuff. But in San Diego, at least in this current market, it's tough to cash flow positive on it unless you're getting multiple doors. Hopefully,
So it has more than 3 doors, 4 doors.
It really varies. I mean, it could be 3 to 4 doors. And then also too, based on the areas that gentrifying too.
Yeah, that's another favorite word you'll hear a lot. Is it does go down per door, and it's going to be a utilization of what's best for you. So if you have a limited amount of cash for down payment. Then you have to utilize how much can you rent out one side, if it's a duplex, for example, versus the other side, and then you use one side as owner occupied, and you use the other side as the business.
What would be like a down payment? I'm sorry.
No, you're not coming out.
Like a
It's
average down payment.
so that's going to depend on your situation. If you're buying it as a second home,
Right.
which would be your case. If your business is based out of Florida and you're buying here, it will be a second home. You will get a way better interest rate than buying investor here. And then to answer your question, does it get cheaper per door? Yes. If you're buying a duplex versus a 3-unit versus a 4-unit, the larger volume you buy, the lower the price gets reduced.
Right.
But it also makes the down payment is different versus 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit.
Right.
Make sense?
Gotcha.
Okay. So let's look at the big picture. So big picture, having your full financial picture and understanding it. First of all, when you do your loan application, you look at your pay stubs, your income, your assets, it may not be perfect. We got to fix things. What's your future economic outlook in your business? Let's say you're a computer programmer, mid-level. You're going to be replaced by something in the near future. So future outlook is probably not that good. Look at a buy versus rent analysis. You can contact your agent to do a rental analysis for you, and they'll give you the real rents of the properties you're looking at. So in your example, you said 2 units. You would look at the price of the unit. I'm just going to make it up, $800K. And then you're going to pull the rental values of that unit all within a 0.5 of a mile circumference and go, oh, I can rent it for $2,800. And then see if the other side makes sense for you to work the unit. Does that make sense? Boom. Oh, what are your biggest wants and goals? So people are buying properties for different reasons. Your reason may be a tax write-off. Some other person's reason may be like, I need a great location. I need it to make appreciation because I want to be worth $3 million in 9 years. I need it for a rental. I need it for investment. I need it for the payment. What's the cost? You need to sit down and analyze this for yourself to figure out, why are you buying a house? Because you shouldn't just buy a house to buy a house. You should buy a house with an investment goal. If you don't have a goal, you're going to probably not get anything really all that good. Then you want to look at the loan factors. You know, how much of a down payment do you have? Let's look at interest rates. Interest rates right now, for those of you out there, if you Google interest rates, you will see average 30-year fixed, probably around 6%, 6.5% over the last 20 years. So typically right now, we're not at the highest point we've ever been. It's just because we had the lowest rates in history a couple of years ago. And then you want to look at your long-term costs and your closing costs. We'll go over closing costs and long-term costs later as well. Ooh, speed bumps. So Vinny will jump in here really quick too as we go in it. But as you're getting a loan, if your loan application is not processed correctly, could there be some things that happen?
Yeah, so things to really see is people think they're gonna pull a faster one on the lender. I hear a decent amount of time where they go, oh, you know, they're never gonna know about this IRS lien, or they're never gonna know about this like
We won't know about
debt
things in
right
Florida.
there.
We'll know
It's
everything.
this child support, whatever it might be, right? They think they're gonna get past it, and so it's not a good sign when your lender is asking for the minimum amount of documentation. The analogy that I always use is it's basically, it's like your attorney, right? They're trying to build a case to the underwriter why you should be able to buy a property, right? And they're getting all the facts so they can portray it to the underwriter, to the judge. Now, if they don't have the facts, and then we get to escrow, now they're asking for all this documentation, and they go, oh, what happened with this, what about this? You can lose the property. For example, in the example right here, Florida, you own a property in Florida, buying a property here. There are probably some banks out there, if you told them, hey, I'm looking to buy a property in San Diego, and they'd go, okay, you can use it as your primary residence. Because I've had this situation where someone was moving from Arizona here to buy locally, and they said, oh yeah, we're good, you're good to buy, you're pre-approved, ready to go. We got to escrow on the property, next thing they know, the lender goes, you know what, the underwriter said, because you're transferring jobs, you're not gonna have that job anymore, you can't use that income, you can't buy the property, which everyone knew, except that lender. So just because they're saying it's okay, you want to make sure they're diving deep into the file because you don't want to hiccup, you don't want to speed up.
Yeah, we're going to find out everything. We're lending you lots of money. If
if we're lending you a couple $100,000, you think we're gonna check everything? Obviously. So don't lie to the lender, pick a smart lender, research out your lender, give them the paperwork that they want up front. If they don't request that much paperwork, they're probably not doing their job correctly, or you're the perfect best borrower we ever met. Do I need some of those? Absolutely. There is some out there. They're about 2%. So let's avoid the mistakes of adding cosigners, loan costs went up, doesn't meet guidelines. All these things, if people out there are thinking, oh, I talked to my friend, he had a nightmare about getting a home loan. You probably know someone. They didn't disclose everything correctly, or the lender didn't do their job correctly. Loan types. So there's different types of loans. I'm trying to go through this quicker because I don't want everyone to fall asleep. So we're going to go into different loan types. There's a loan type for everyone. Is this true? No. But there's a lot of different loans out there. There's FHA loans, 580 FICOs and up. Conventional loans, 620 FICOs and up. Before the questions come in asking about, didn't they just lower the FICO requirements to make it easier to get a loan with a less payment and a bad FICO? Yes, that is true. So we do offer that, so don't be discouraged. VA loans, jumbo loans, they're all very different. So is the chances high that there's something that will probably fit in your box of what you want to do? It's very good. But sometimes it doesn't fit in the box and you need someone to make a plan for you to help it fit into the box. Because you don't want to be the mind that's stuck in the box but can never get out. How to do that? It's a funny joke. Nobody laughed. That's okay. I don't care.
It took me a minute.
It's all right.
It was good. I get it.
Sorry, my sense of humor go down. First time homebuyer grants. So for those of you out there who haven't been able to save for a home and you're tired of paying rent, you wonder, is there some sort of assistance for me? Yes, there is. There's lots of different grants that you can use to get into buying a home. Now, California, San Diego, we just had our free-for-all dream program where they gave away all this money and it lasted how many days, Vinny, before it went broke?
10 days.
Yes, 10 days. So for 10 days, you got to be given a giant down payment for free. So where there's a will, there's a way. Look into down payments, grants. If you talk to a lender and the lender knows nothing about grants, down payment assistance, or any of these other programs, you may want to choose someone differently. USDA loans, that's not a state loan. Never mind. That is a different loan that you can get with no money down. Teacher loans, first responder loans, Golden State Finance loans, 3% down loans, grants from the state of California. Different options for you.
What would you have to do to get that USDA loan? Like,
So,
outside of San Diego.
You didn't laugh at my joke, but that's okay. The USDA loan is not a state loan. Anyways, it's a great acronym. It actually is in a rural area.
Right.
So there's a lot of areas in San Diego that you can use the site, type in the exact address, it tells you if it qualifies or not for the USDA loan. It's a great program. It's so underutilized. I do a lot of it. I do some in Poway. I do some
Like Valley Center.
Valley Center. I do some in Escondido. Valley Center is a great place to do it, actually. And there's a lot of areas where it's more rural. So you may look at one pocket, like this neighborhood right here, 1 block radius may not qualify, but this block may. Great program. It's zero money down. It is utterly amazing. When you hire your real estate agent, make sure your real estate agent knows how to look that up as well. Because if they don't look it up correctly, you will find your dream house and then find out you can't use that loan and you'll be crushed.
And it can only be on hospitals, right? It can be like on.
It's not on condos, it's not on open space. It's only on houses already on land with the foundation built. Before you ask the next question, do you do land loans? I can do land loans, construction, one time built all the way up. Yes, you can.
Yeah,
Is that your next question?
I've heard that as remodeling and
Yep.
homes as well.
So I do that as well. You do buy the land and do what's called one-time close. We buy the land and then we do the renovation costs and build the whole house onto the top of it and wrap it.
You're probably going to be better served if you're going to do something like that. Is to do a FHA 203K loan, a construction loan, so you don't have to deal with all the permits. So buy a property
Yes.
that you can at least keep one wall up, then renovate the rest of the place instead of actually doing it from the ground up because permits.
It's cheaper too.
Yeah, cheaper are going to be out of control. Yeah,
So next, gift funds. People always ask, hey, can I use gift funds? Yes, absolutely. Gift funds are allowed from family members. Gift funds are allowed from churches. Gift funds are allowed from some of your employers. That's amazing.
But gift funds are never allowed from your realtor or lender. So don't ask, because we're not giving to you. And we can't have cash. So for everyone out there that goes, hey, I have a lot of money for down payment. I saved $40,000. And I said, that's great. Can you send me proof of the funds? And they show me a coffee can that's underneath their house. No, we can't use that. You cannot use cash. Please put your cash in the bank. If you deposit more than $4,999 at one time, you will also have issues. So please take note of the cash laws and depositing cash. I'm not going to dive deeper into that. We'll leave that one alone. So, yes, you may want to research that out yourself. Yeah, I would highly recommend you research that. Okay, Vinny, you want to jump into this one? We did this before. This is full disclosure. This was done a couple months ago, but this is doing for this area right here, average prices, which this is Clairemont.
So the biggest focus is, yes, this is kind of what's happened in the last couple of years. We've had massive growth, and be very careful about that of buying off projections. We dropped since July in San Diego County 12%. Since July to the holidays, we've gone back up, and now we're limited 11%. So we're close to where we dropped off end of last year. And you're going to have one person say the market's going to keep going up. You're going to have one person say the market's going down. I personally think it's hard for the market to drop because we have such little inventory out there. But you never know. Rates could jump up to 12%, and everything could change, right? No one thought COVID was going to be that catalyst that was going to shoot us up by 40-some%. So you don't fully know. And if you do keep the property over the years, there's only been 3 times that I think last 60 years where the actual value has been less than the year before across the board. So for the most part, it's going to be higher in the next couple of years. Just hold it on, just like stock.
So this slide was done through Black Knight Analytics, which is a data research fund. And it basically pointed 92117. This was a property I pulled up. It pulled the average surrounding value of this house was $990. And then this house was 63 years old, and over 63 years, it historically went up 5% per year. It's about the average rate of appreciation in San Diego County, around 5% in the normal market. Over 10 years, it went up 6%, but over 5 years, it went up 7%. That's skewed because the last 3 years of COVID skewed all the prices. So then they average the prices over 63 years, and you get 7%. But it forecasts this year to only go up 2.9% on this house. So the reason why this slide is here, and over 5 years, it'll be up more than 23%. The reason why this slide is here is to show you the way that you will make money to get you towards your more net worth longer term is only through leverage and appreciation. So if worst case scenario, like Vinny mentioned, it only goes up 2.91 in 1 year. Over 5 years, if it goes up 23%, look at the amount of money. Now your house is worth $1.2 million versus what you bought it for. So you're literally making, $236K over 5 years. I don't know how many people out there can save $236K in 5 years. It's a lot of money. So that's through the power of leverage. That's why this slide is here. If you like, Vinny can look up all the houses and provide you with this data. All this data can be made per house on an individual level based only back 63 years. So it is unique to look at the stuff.
And something to think about, and we're going to be getting to it, I think, fairly soon. You've seen kind of the wealth that accumulated with Julie, basically in your business. You've seen kind of what wealth can be accumulated with your property. And what are we in California? Very sue happy, right? So that's why we're going to have Chris talk in the next couple of minutes, talk about how to protect yourself. So just want to throw that out there.
We did this next. This was the cost of waiting. So a lot of people will come to me and Vinny and go, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till the home prices drop. They're totally going down. Home prices are going down. There's lots of info. So please feel free to research this out. The cost of waiting, the prices, like Vinny said, went down 12%, came back 11%, and now they've already gone back up again. Please feel free to research out, Googling or asking ChatGPT, James for asking them what's the historical rate of appreciation for San Diego County. Look it up yourself. You will see. The longer you wait, this property in particular. I looked it up because my client did buy this property. Looking at average, this one was waiting 6 months, went up point this. Waiting 1 year, 2.9. Waiting 3 years, or waiting 2 years, they anticipated it to go up 8% per property specific on this one. So I did this just so you can look at it to go,
where do I make my money? How much appreciation will I make? And then I looked at my payments over time. The longer I wait, the payment gets more expensive. And as you can see, I actually did, this is hard to read, but I did 6.5% or 6.25%. And then I reduced the rate a full percentage point because I think the future rates will be lower. So I even reduced this lower down, and you can still see the cost of waiting cost you money. Doesn't mean you need to buy a house now. This is not a pitch for you to buy a house. It's simply telling you the longer you wait in San Diego County of the price of homes, the more money there will be. Because there's never a perfect time to buy. It's whether it's perfect for you. How am I doing with speed? Good. Okay.
We're even surprised with some of the houses in City Heights are like $1 million,
Oh,
which is crazy.
I own some properties in a very not safe parts of town. The prices are through the roof. And I mean, at one of the properties, I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, a guy was killed on the sidewalk. And the renter called me and was like, there's police here. And I'm like, go out there, there's a guy on the sidewalk. And I'm like, ooh, prices are still going up.
Yeah.
You got nowhere to go. All right, not to get sidetracked. Appreciation gained from buying. So this is the same house, used it again, and I did now 15 years. Because when you talk to your realtor should be telling you, if you can't hold this house for 5 years, don't buy the house. When Vinny talks to people, he tells them that, and then I end up talking to them, I tell them 7. So me and Vinny differ on a lot of different things, but the one thing that's a consistent basis is both of us are ultra conservative with money. Sometimes a little too conservative from certain aspects. Other people are going to tell you, just buy a house, it's great, everything's going to be fantastic. That's not always the case. So buying a home in San Diego, if you sit on for 15 years, you will make more wealth than the other person that's going to rent. It's clear to see. You can look at this house in particular, 15 years from now, they're estimating that house that was $990 to be close to $2.4 million. Speaks for itself. If you can't earn that much money over the years, hard to save. Closing costs. Is it free to buy a home, Benny? There's closing costs? No way. Okay. So everyone wants to know what's closing costs on a home. So you go look with your realtor and you have your down payment, and the lender doesn't go over with you those closing costs. Then you get under contract and the lender says, hey, I need your down payment plus your closing costs are X amount of dollars. What's a simple rule to know how much are your closing costs on average? Simple. Use 2.25% of the purchase price. So let's do the math simple. Your house is $800,000. Closing costs, $17,500. You can match that. I'm not going to do it right. I think I did that. But I'm pretty sure I'm close. So it's 2.25%. Closing costs can vary from month to month. They can be negotiated by your realtor. Your realtor can negotiate closing costs. Is that true, Vin? No. Okay. Lender can credit you towards closing costs too. So use your lender as a resource, use your realtor as a resource, make sure they're negotiating for you and working for you.
You have to pay that closing cost like right then and there after, or is it like put into the bill?
Great question. So your question actually pony rides back to 2010. We used to take the closing costs and put them all into the loan and wrap it.
Right.
Bad idea. Because now you could buy the house with 0 money down or 3% down, and you can just let it go. Now you pay the closing costs the day of closing. So your down payment, typically, if you want to get technical, you need to have the down payment ready to wire in our escrow 5 days before closing, and your closing costs 5 days before closing. Certain months are cheaper to close than other months. It's cheaper to close at the end of the month than the beginning of the month because of prepaid interest. Decision time. Vinny, you want to tell us about decision time?
You want to split up and get Chris up here? And then
Yeah,
jump like this?
it's fine. Go ahead.
I jump up here and then we'll cut in between.
Yeah, sure.
I'll bring us slide up.
Where is it in the sequence? That's what I don't know.
Oh, I don't know if you put the, where's it?
I didn't put them in here. No,
Oh.
send them to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Were they sent to me?
Yeah.
No, they're
No.
to me?
Yeah, you can have it.
Oh, wow.
That's totally gonna be my fault then. I did not put them in there. I thought they were put in there.
Okay. Are you able to talk? So just free flow?
On what? On this?
Oh, no. It's like, just,
Let me look.
basically, yeah. Businesses, government, stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, now.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to do this, Jim. I knew you were going to do this, Jim. All right, so let me see.
That's my mistake, full disclosure. I didn't realize they were sent to me because I don't put together the slideshows.
That's what, because when I said to you, what's your email address? That was the clue, right? Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
I'll be very fast. I'll be very fast.
totally my
So,
mistake.
I'm an attorney, and I'm a business attorney, and I also do estate planning. So let's see. Here we go. This is my. Right. So I'm a business attorney, and I'm also an estate planning attorney. Why I'm here is because when you purchase property, one of the things we always look at in the beginning is, should my property be in a trust, a revocable living trust? And the reason the property should be in a revocable living trust is because we want to do a number of things. Number one, we want to avoid probate. Why do we want to avoid probate? We want to avoid probate because it costs an absolute fortune and it's pointless. So, for instance, these are the current costs. All right, so this is just on real estate, so this is not your other assets. We'll just keep it real estate. A $1 million property that has to go through probate is going to cost you $46,000 in probate fees. $46,000 on $1 million, and we've seen that there's not much in San Diego County that's under $1 million. And as you said, when the price goes up in 15 years, we're looking at doubling.
2.4.
Okay, so then we're looking at $66,000 on a $2 million property just on probate. If you have a will, it goes through probate. If you don't have a will, it goes to your assets, it goes through probate. So probate is always going to happen unless you have a trust. It's a modern, the trust is a modern vehicle. Wills go back to the time of the Roman Empire. So long time, 2000 years. So basically, yeah, 2000 years. So what is a trust? It's a contract. And it's basically where we say, okay, I'm going to take my house and I'm going to put it into trust for myself, such that I own the house, I still own the house, but I own it in a little box. So the trust is a box, and everything goes into the box, and you don't, well, actually, to be honest, you don't own the house, you own the box. All right, so that's how we get around it, through contract law. And because you don't own the house per se, as you would if you were joint tenants or community property or as an individual, you bypass probate. And you bypass having to spend $46,000, $66,000, $88,000, depending where, and it's just going to keep going up. And those are basically statutory fees. So statutory fees means there's no negotiating. That's what the court wants, that's what the lawyers want, that's what it's going to be. So everybody should hold their property in a trust. How much does it cost for a lawyer to set up a trust? About $3,500. So you can see the difference. $3,500 to $46,000 is going to be about the minimum.
Can the trust be cracked?
Correct.
Can I, I'm sorry, the question, but can I break the trust? Can I go around it? Lawyers are very good at breaking things and breaking it down through errors. Is there a way I can, let's say I got a trust and I put whatever, some things in it. Is there some way that someone can break the trust and go into it and go after my assets anyways?
Well, that would be what's called, that would be a trust contest. So yes, if your mother, that's a different thing. If your mother's on her deathbed and Bobby from down the street goes to visit her and says, sign this, then,
POA or something.
yeah, but it would have to be notarized. See, a will doesn't have to be notarized.
Okay, so it's only by that.
So you have a safety net when you have a trust from that happening, all right? So for instance, Aretha Franklin, they just found her will in a sofa, and they designated that, yes, it was a valid will. So why people with millions and millions and millions of dollars don't have trust, I don't know. Prince didn't have a trust. He had 5 lawyers.
He had a symbol though.
He had a symbol. What was it? 7?
I don't know. They
No. 7. But he had a team of lawyers, but no one mentioned, hey, you know, maybe it'd be a good idea to have a trust for all your money. They didn't do that. So what does it do? It goes through probate. So he has to spend all this money. And really what we're talking about, he's dead, so it's not that he's losing that money. It's his beneficiaries, his heirs. Okay, so those are the people who are losing the money. Let's see. So the other question you had was, can you get around it in any other way?
Mm-hmm.
You have to fund the trust. You have to fund the trust. So you've got the trust, as I like to think about it, the trust is a box. So how do we fund it? We put things into it. So if it was bank accounts, so you want to put your bank accounts into the trust, you would do that by just going down to the bank and saying,
And I can name the trust whatever I want,
yes,
so no one can find it.
you
So it's
can.
not research.
I think what he's getting at, he's getting more at the lawsuit aspect of it. If someone can sue him, basically on that property, take that property.
That's
instead
what
of, yeah, that's.
I'm asking me
So
to
you're
take
talking
properties
different
and I want to
things.
get
Yeah, he's talking more about protection of
Oh.
basically of like a.
Oh, there's zero protection from having a trust, from liability.
zero.
Zero. Zero protection. So, but I'm not going to go and sit down because that's where the second part comes in, which is LLCs. All right, that's different. We're just talking about if you own your own property, and I call it, if this is your prime residence, right? If it's your prime residence, you want that in a trust. You don't want it as an LLC because it's your prime residence, and there's different reasons we don't do that. It's to do with piercing the corporate veil, which I won't get into. But what we do with the primary residence is we want the trust. We want you to have the property in there. Does it mean that you can't sell a property? No, because you sell a property, but you're the trustee of the property. You own the trust. Okay, so you own the trust, and the trust has control over the property, so you can still own it. Sometimes with regards to loans, there's this new thing now.
I just thought about when you said that right there, and I was waiting on trustees signing off everything to let it go through, and someone needs POA to do it, or someone missed the trust signing, missing one signature.
Well, but all you're doing is if you wanted to refinance, say,
And you
sometimes
take it out of the trust and
you
then
take
put
it out of the trust, right, and then you put it back in,
Mhm.
right? As lawyers, do we think that's a great idea? Well, we have no choice because that's what the lender wants.
Triggers reassessments too.
By putting it into the trust, you're not going to, there's no change in the property tax. Zero. So it's never going to trigger a change in the property tax, ever, because you still own it. Under the law, we still say, even though it's in a trust, it's in a different legal vehicle, if you like, the law looks at that and they say, okay, well, it's still the same. We still see it as the same. So it's the same ownership, if you like, for purposes of the property tax. So that's right. But then what you're getting into, I think, was saying, how am I supposed to protect my property? The only way you can protect your property is having it in an entity, whether it be a corporation, or now really what we always seem to be using is an LLC. That's really the main vehicle to hold property. If you're in investing, if you're in an investment property. So how do you do that? Very, very simply, an LLC is going to own the home. So it might be your investment home, the first rental home that you have, right? You're going to own that, and you're going to own it. You're going to buy it, as you said, because you want to have it with the lender. You're not going to do that through the LLC. But as soon as you have that, you're then going to work with the lender and say, I want to have this as an LLC. I want to protect my liability. So that home is then owned by the LLC. Right? So it's owned by the LLC. The reason it's owned by the LLC is the reason the LLC is going to limit the liability is that I can't, if I have a claim against that property for, say, personal injury or a contractor, I can't get through that property to another property. I can't get through that investment property to any other properties you might have, I can't get through to your personal bank account. I can't get through to anything. I'm contained within that property. So, for instance, when David was talking about, I've got a house, a rental house in an iffy area of San Diego, right? If something happens, what we want that house contained in an LLC, such that if somebody sues the LLC, because that's who they're going to sue, they're going to say, well, who owns the house? The house isn't owned by David as an individual. That house is owned by the LLC, or corporation in this case. And then what we're going to do is say, okay, well, fine, you can't get past that. But then what about insurance? I've got insurance, so why would I need to have an LLC if I have insurance? Well, because at the moment, the insurance industry is an absolute chaos in California and most other states. And secondly, they actually have exclusions. So you never know you're never going to know what the total exclusion is unless you're a lawyer and you're going to go through your insurance dockets, and then you just have a fight on your hand. And the other thing I think is, with regards to an LLC, it's a fail-safe. So if your insurance it may be that your insurance, you're underinsured, right? You may be underinsured for something.
Hurricane insurance in Naples.
Yeah, you may be underinsured. I speak from experience. I had a dog. I tied her up beside Sprouts Marketplace, I think it was. Somebody fell over her leash. I was going in actually to get her treats. So it's not like it's left of that. And I went into. I can't. Someone's fallen over the leash, and I'm getting sued for $1.4 million. Right? $1.4 million. So, if that had been on your homeowner's insurance, right, or say on the insurance, your rental insurance for that property, and remember they wanted $1.4 million. There were no damages. There was no dental or anything like that. So you can imagine what catastrophic injuries cost. $5 million, $6 million. Your insurance isn't going to cover that. So what happens? Well, if you've got an LLC per rental property, and that's per rental property, that stops there. The shield is around each individual property that owns each LLC, or it's owned by each LLC.
It would have to be a separate entity
Yes.
per property.
Yes. I have some client. I had a client. Well, it was earlier in the year, and it was two sisters and a brother, and they had something like 18, 19, 20 properties in San Diego County, but in one LLC. So what were they actually doing? What they were doing is saying, okay, here, look, we're putting all our money into this one LLC, all our 20 houses, so that if anybody sues us, great, my house over here is okay, my primary residence okay, but all my actual money, the millions and millions and millions of dollars, it's wrong. It's wrong. They were very reluctant, even though they had a lot of equity in all these properties. They were very reluctant to go down the one LLC per property route, which is fine because it's a business decision. I always say to people, it's a business decision. How much liability protection do you want? That's up to you. It's never right. It's up to you. So what you can do is you can say, okay, well, I'll carve them down the side. I'll have two LLCs, and at least I've halved. That's the way English people say it, not halve. I'll halve my assets. So these 10 houses go into this LLC. These 10 houses go into that LLC. At least I've halved it that way. Instead of done that. The more equity, the longer you're in the game, the closer you are to retirement. That's when we advise our clients, no, this is the time to really, really play it safe. Because otherwise, you're putting all your eggs into one basket. You're just risking too much. And as we discussed earlier, this is the most litigious country in the world.
So what's the worst that can happen?
The worst
Can they take the house?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah. Yeah, they'll
So
take
that
it.
if
Yeah.
something happens to one property, they can take, say, all 10 of those properties.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
Bingo.
that's terrible.
Bingo.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I just learned that right now.
Yeah, bingo. Exactly.
We learn something new every day.
Oh, I really learned. I just learned that. I'm totally leaving here and I'm not happy about that.
But here's the other question is, so we've now created the LLCs to put in a number, or to have a number of properties owning these LLCs, right? You're a member of the LLC. So let's say it was you and your spouse. You are the only two members of that LLC. Members, or LLCs have members, corporations have shareholders. So you're members of the LLC, the two of you. If you've got your liability protection, but what about your probate? What are you going to do about that? Well, the law has a way around that too. Who owns the LLC? The trust. So the trust owns the LLC. The LLC owns the property. Each investment property. And that's basically how we do it. Simple as that. Although it does actually take quite a bit.
No, it's great. And actually, to point right onto that, you'll close the loan in your name.
Yeah.
And then you will immediately go the next day after and you will take your name and put it into the trust, which pisses off every single lender, but it doesn't matter because that's what you should be doing. And I get that question all the time. And I always tell people, don't email me that you're doing that, just do it.
Well, let's
And I let him
actually,
do it.
but David, let's talk about this because there's also something else. When you come to refinance.
Yep.
Right, so David, that's probably what you should tell me. So when you refinance, they may want you to take it out of the LLC, and they're looking at 6 months, I think. or
No, so that, and I'll go back and I wanted to go over something more about realtors and how getting pulling on this. So when you refinance a property that you put into a trust, we make you take it out of the trust, and then we'll let you put it right back in the day after we fund. So we don't really.
LLCs, that's what I mean.
Oh, the
LLC.
LLC. Oh, we'll let you do that too. We're technically supposed to have a waiting period. If you're working with a lender and you forget to email them and call them and tell them that, you forgot. That's what I can tell you. So a lot of people take their properties out of the trust to refinance it, and then I will tell them, well, you can put it right back into the trust the day after we close. So yes, you are unprotected for now a day, which does worry certain people of high net worth, but that is how you can work around it. And then if it's owned by an LLC and I take it out of the LLC to refinance it, and you want to put it back in, technically we're supposed to have waiting periods on that. But then again, we're not here for the action police. And it's up to yourself to make your own decisions. And I would be very careful about the information you share. Very slippery slope to walk on right there.
So if I had a higher interest rate, what would I do to get it lower to refinance it?
Yeah, just refinance it,
Oh, okay.
which will happen in the future. Rates will ultimately come down.
Cool.
I've been making a prediction with Vinny that it would happen around October, November. Then when I start making that around February, I said that. It's on video.
His
It's on video everywhere. I started saying it.
His prediction, I think in January or July. His prediction in February.
Oh man, I'm throwing under the bus here. I still think I said October, November. But you can't predict the future, and rates really aren't that bad, historically speaking. But when you're used to 3% rates during COVID, people only remember that. And the reality of it is that's not coming back unless a couple things happen. Do you want to know what they are?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's if China invades us, zombies take over, our aliens arrive, our everything goes complete meltdown financially, which then you won't even care about 3% rates.
Right.
Done.
They're not getting ready.
They are.
China's already taken over.
Yeah.
Without even a single shot
Everything
fired.
we're wearing,
Yeah.
China on it.
So I'm gonna say I think it's most important to put your property in trust. I mean, I'm gonna definitely say that, and it's been a great learning experience for the LLCs today because someone didn't know that and had other things going on. That's been very informative.
And this, to just jump in, if you have a family member, because I mean, some of my clients that have a really peaceful retirement are basically individuals that have their houses paid off. And just imagine if their tenant fell, hurt themselves, and had a lawsuit, and now that person lost their retirement. So for 3,500, definitely.
To jump right back into this before we left, we wrote, can be negotiated by a realtor. We tried to shorten the presentation up, and I wanted to kind of say, shameless plug for how important your realtor is. I'm not a realtor. Vinny's a realtor. Vinny can come up here and talk about himself, but the reality of it is if you choose the wrong realtor, it will cost you a lot of money. If you choose the wrong realtor, you will get sold a house you didn't really need to buy. If you choose the wrong realtor, you will miss out on a lot of opportunity. So please choose wisely. All those steps that we went over about reviewing, loan officers and other steps, do the same thing for your realtor.
I know it's a little off topic too. Something to think about. I know you're talking about investment purchase, right? So, and this is not on the slides, I know for a fact,
Let's see.
right?
There it is. Look at that. Boom.
All right, so the
Shameless
idea of
promotion.
the investment was that there's different rents, right? So like we're talking about cash flowing positive, right? So you could do short-term rentals, you could do mid-term rentals, or long-term rentals. Or corporate rentals. Corporate rentals are more on that mid-term, right? And so something to think about in the current climate right now, we'll see what happens in a month, 2 months from now, right? Is for anything less than a month, you have to apply for it to actually get the license to actually rent the short-term rentals.
It's like a permit, right?
Yeah, it's a lottery, but the shorter the time frame, the lottery goes in, the harder it supposedly gets, things like that. But if you're past a month, right, you can do the midterm rentals, and you're not going to need those. You're not going to have those issues right there. But if you're having basically multiple tenants and they're like corporate tenants, that kind of stuff, again, it goes back to having that LLC to protect you for the midterm rents right there. And there's good platforms like Furnish Finder and things like that. They're going to help a little bit more so with that cash flow right there. The tough part about it is with the midterm rentals is having that little bit of lag time, because you're going to have someone that's going to want to move in for, let's say, 2 months, 3 months. And then unless you have like a duplex, you might have your place vacant because it's hard to get that back-to-back renters. So things to think about with the corporate renter. Okay. Choosing the right realtor. Check online reviews. Check license number. Do they work full-time? Do they work part-time? We already talked about, again, 50% last year was didn't do a single piece of business. And then 20% on top of that did one piece of business. There's a lot of part-time realtors out there. So just know what you're getting, especially in this market right now, where it's so key to actually see how you're wanting your offer accepted. Now, those properties, mind you, across the board, the median home price was selling about 101% of listed sold last month right there.
What does that mean?
Okay, so the properties listed are 500,000. That means it's on basically selling for 505,000. Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. Now, something to think about though, doesn't mean all properties are selling at basically 101 listed sold. That just means some of them are. Some properties that are maybe sitting, they're willing to actually give you a credit, allow you to actually buy down your credit, buy down your
What's
rate.
that called?
Huh?
What's that called?
Closing costs credit?
Seller credit.
Yeah, seller
What's in
credit.
the other side?
Yeah, so seller credit. So understanding the situation that's happening right there. Also, too, there's some individuals that maybe price their property a little bit higher and are willing to carry the note, right? So it's something that yeah. And so if they're willing to allow you to carry a note because maybe they have it paid off in full, right? And they go, you know what, we'll give you a 4% interest rate now.
Mm-hmm.
We'll carry the note for 5 years. We'll have a balloon payment. You can refinance it to that. It's gold right there. Now, usually you see those on basically more the jumbo property or maybe the outlier properties, right? Like you're talking about Valley Center, USDA, those kind of platforms there. So really understanding the situation of the purchase is going to really help you, and that's where your realtor and lender come on board. And then
Could I take over a loan?
It's called assumable.
Yeah, assumable. So it matters. It matters on the situation, right? So usually you hear the assumable more for VA, right? So for veterans,
I think
right?
so too.
Yeah. So the issue, and I'm not sure what that shit you'll tell you, but for VA, right? The liability gets pushed over to the new person for the VA. FHA, they keep the liability, sorry.
Yeah, it's you can do assumable loans, but it's VA to VA.
And then I do FHA assumable loans. They're assumable. You just fully qualify, and then it will ultimately release the borrower. It will.
Okay,
release the
it will
borrower.
really start.
It will release FHA to FHA is great. If you can assume someone's FHA loan for right now for 2.875,
And not all lenders will do it, so
They
you have to double check on that. If they're gonna allow you to do that, there are like workarounds if you really are friends with VA for VA. But the thing you gotta remember is if there's a will, there's a way. As long as you have basically the right team on your side to kind of think outside the box. You know how many times that I've talked to someone, they go, "Oh, I've been told that I can't buy a property," and they go, "Let's see." And it's really they can buy a property, it should be a pain in the ass. And they need a lender or a realtor that's willing to take it on.
goodness, weird stuff.
It's, experience matters. So
Do they own
understand.
a home? No, I was trying to point that out. I put do they own a home on there because a
Oh,
lot of realtors don't own a home. Vinny owns a home. Vinny owns investment properties. Vinny actually does it. That's very different. Most realtors don't. I'm pointing that out not, because it's true. Most don't. And it's important. Like, I think your realtor should actually own a freaking home and they should own investment property. And he owns both.
it's
It's
hard.
your
To,
shameless plug. You can pay me later.
it's hard to sell. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, right? I mean, I don't agree that basically that if you don't own a home, you're not a good realtor, right? It matters in the situation. But if you look at it fully on the full picture of it, if they're telling you have to buy, and they're not buying, something going on. Now, if they're telling you the reason why I don't own is because this, and I want to dissect your situation and see if it's actually right for you to buy, that's a different story. But if they're telling you have to buy, it's a great time to buy, you're to buy, and they don't own, be careful. So,
Wanted to make sure we got that in there. I'm a big pusher on that, and me and him will difference on quite a bit of opinions, but I think it's important. If you're selling real estate, you should own real estate. Opinion. What to consider in your first home purchase. Vinny, you want to jump in this, go over this really quick so we don't drown them out with time, but these are important things to go into about where you're purchasing.
yeah, so going really quick, greatschools.org, if you're looking for buying for yourself, you want to find out the school districts within the neighborhood. Also, neighborhood gentrification. There's a big difference between one side of the street to the next part of the street. I mean, you talk about Point Loma, you're talking about different communities over there. You're talking about City Heights, Normal Heights right there. You jump basically out Cajon is going to have a different one. You're going to jump 805, different ones. So it jumps all over. So understanding the different communities. And like when someone asks me, hey, I'm looking to buy in LA, I go, I'm probably not the right person for you. You're looking to buy San Diego, I'll give you an idea of what's going on. But that's where you see people that are overbidding on properties because maybe they don't know the community. Rental value, right? We talked about it. For the most part, it's been going up by 10% rental income. So understand that this is something that I picked up a couple years ago. Is a market crash happens when people buy off of speculation. Okay, it's good to speculate on where the future is going, but if you're buying simply off the idea, if you're going, I'm going to use the interest-only loan. I'm going to basically buy because every year it's been going up by 10% on rental income. My values have gone up by 10% of the last year, and in 10 years from now, I could refinance and be a millionaire. Right? That is where basically market crash. We're not at that point because inventory is so low, but just be aware of buying off of full speculation. And then turnover rate, understanding.
Could you refinance to buy another property?
Yeah.
Or you could, okay.
Yeah, there's someone that teaches that. Yeah, there used to be in the last correction or whatever, there was a group that would teach that. Is they would basically go, okay, the market's going up X amount, buy a property right here, refinance, take your money out, buy the next property, and you're leveraging yourself out over time. Some people have a different threshold, right, of being really careful. They do adjustments and things like that. So just be aware of that, but you can't take money out and buy something you don't know.
So the turnover ratio that was mentioned, that means how quickly the houses sell in that neighborhood. Some neighborhoods are very slow, some are very fast. The faster they turn over means people are moving in, moving out. If someone's moving in and out of a neighborhood constantly, is the neighborhood stable? No. Here we go. Home buying process. I'm going to go through this really quick. You shop for houses. You submit an offer. Your offer is basically what you're willing to pay. You have an EMD, which is your earnest money deposit, which Vinny will vary between
Yeah, so you counter offer and then disclosure side. The other one I just throw it really fast is if you Google online and say I want to buy a home, right? You want to make sure you're saying I want to buy a home in California, right? If you're really going to go that direction, ideally call myself or Dave and we can walk you through that because in some states you need attorneys, right? And some states you don't need an attorney. We have escrow here, right? Some states you're sitting across from the seller at the same table and everyone's sitting there passing the keys, signing all the stuff. That's not done here. You're probably maybe never going to see the seller if you're buying a property, right? So understand the different communities and what you need throughout the process. Because again, some states you're going to need that attorney throughout the process.
Counter offers.
Oh, counter offers. Basically, you're giving an offer, they give an offer back. You're countering basically everything that was written on the counter to the next counter supersedes the thing before. So if you have the original RPA residence purchase agreement, they're countering back, okay, instead of 17 days to do your investigation on the property, we want to do 10 days. You can agree to it, you can cancel it back, you can do price. Sometimes it's basically they want you to clear it closed. So understanding what the other side wants, and that's how you're kind of countering back for.
So that's making the offer, buying the home. You know, if you submit an offer, for example, 800, and then it countered for 820, and then you agree on it, then you all sign everything together, you go into escrow. Escrow is open, which means you have official contract, you wire your money. The lender is going to order an appraisal. You have to make sure the house is worth what it appraises for. You're going to do inspections. Then he will help you with inspections, go through all of them. And ultimately, the loan will be loan doc signed, it'll be underwritten, and then loan doc signed, and then homeownership at the end. I went through that quickly because before we had, actually I do still. So what goes into the loan? Your disclosures were signed. Loan is underwritten, which means when we pre-approved you from day one and we looked at your income, assets, credits, down payment, and your situation, we made sure it fit all the rules of being underwritten. As long as it fits all the rules, it gets approved. When it gets approved, we get the loan approval. We reach out to you for a few miscellaneous things as long as it was done correctly. I say that because a lot of people do not do it correctly. Finally, the loan approval is issued, loan docs come out, you sign them with the notary. They used to be probably 100 pages, now we're down to 45 pages, and ultimately they will be all digital. Then the loan funds, which means then you take ownership. The day that you take ownership, you're open for liability. So the next day you can put it in trust. See the promotion there? See how I slid that in there? Home inspection process. This is really important. Vinny, you want to jump into this? When you find your home, these are things you better be doing, and your realtor should be helping you with this.
Simple analogy is when you do a checkup, you go to the doctor to get a checkup, you're doing a general checkup, right? If there's an issue, basically your back, your eyes, whatever it is, they're going to give you a specialist. Just like with the property, same thing happened. They're going to do a general check on the property. Just like no property is perfect, you want to make sure the property is perfect for you. Okay, maybe there's something with plumbing, maybe something else with what's going on. We'll get a specialist to take a look at that. Then we ask the seller, hey, can you take care of X, Y, and Z? Or we say, hey, we don't want anything. They'll say, okay, you know what? We will take care of X, but not Y, not Z. And it becomes a minimized. Second negotiation right there. So simple, easy assessing the property. Repairs and negotiation, yeah. So yeah, and so if you can do either price or you can do repairs. And being that for you guys at least, you know, background construction, you probably take basically cash instead of the repairs. And then yeah, if they do the repairs, you can do the final test to assess if they actually did the work that was needed. And the one thing, it wasn't here, it was in the past right there. One of the biggest lawsuits that happens in a real estate transaction is basically not disclosing the information. Okay, so the disclosures that we went through really fast.
Seller disclosure.
Yeah, seller disclosure. So the SPQ, the seller property questionnaire, the transfer disclosure, right, are the biggest one. We get hundreds of disclosure in California. Most of them boilerplate, but the biggest one are the SPQ, the TDS. Those are where they've actually filled out the documents about, okay, someone died on the property, was there drugs on the property, was there a dog on the property, any improvements to the property, whatever happened to the property, and put what you know if you're selling a property on those documents, whatever it is, because if they come back later on and they say, hey, you know what, you never told me X, Y, and Z, that's a major lawsuit, right? This was like 6 years ago. I had someone, an investor that I heard that sold a property with a awning on the backyard, in the backyard. The HOA never approved it. He lost in court $60,000 because they said they bought the property for that lying in the backyard. It's a big, so that's a big thing we'll look at.
Boom, done. I know. How did we do on time? I think a long time, actually. Okay, so that was longer than anticipated. That's our contact information.
You want to write, Chris?
Well, if you want, if you email,
Don't sue me, we share the same logo.
Yeah.
if you want, if you email any of us, we'll send you the slides. You can have them, and I'll make sure his slides are in there, and everything will be precise. You can just take it and do what you want. They're not editable, so don't try and make $1 million off our great art, but you can use them for whatever you want to review them. And we did, to answer your question at the end, how did you end with, or how do you have $3 million at the end of 9 years? That was a question you asked, which was you buy one property, you hold it for 3 years, you refinance it, you take out the new down payment, and you buy another property, and you take that out, and you buy a second property. And the rate of appreciation over a 9-year period will end up being $3 million over 9 years, because I did the math backwards. I just took out all the mathematical slides because no one liked them except me. So it's great because it shows if the rate of appreciation is 5%, and you bought one home, and example, it was 990 in the slides, and then after 5 years, I think it was 1.2. And so then if you bought a second property and you did the same thing, well, you're already at 2.5 million right there. And it was very easy to mathematically do it to get to a net worth of $3 million within 9 years.
And you have to wait 3 years to refinance?
No, you can refinance. You technically can refinance. So technically you can refinance wherever you want. Lenders don't want you to refinance within 6 months. Could you do it if you really wanted to? Yes. Technically, you're supposed to wait 6 months. So if you bought a property, example, let's say Vinny found you a house and it was $100K undervalued, and the seller was hurting, and they're like, look, if you close in 10 days, I'll give you this deal. So if Vinny writes contract, you get the deal and you buy the house and it's $100K under. Why would you sit around and wait? If you wanted to, you could close the loan, and I hope you don't email me and say, hey, I'm going to refinance in a week, because I have to tell you I'm not supposed to do that. You have to wait 6 months, and I have to give you a sob story. And then you could be smart, or however you want to look at it. You could hang up the phone and be like, I'm going to call this other lender and not tell anybody anything and do it anyways. Possibly get away with it. Not advisable, but I mean, I've been around the business a long time. I see what everybody does. But if you found that deal, an example, it was $100K under, 6 months went by. Let's say it went up 1% in 6 months. Now you got $100K plus 1%. Refinance after 6 months, pull the money back out and go do what you want or get your down payment back.
Do you get a hard credit hit when you refinance?
Yes.
Okay, so every time you refinance.
The hard credit hit's a fallacy. You have to get, for your FICO score to go down, you need to pull it more than 7 times within a 30-day window. We can also do soft pull credits, which only pulls one bureau, and it basically makes no difference. I do those for people all the time. Like, people contact me and they're like, hey, I want to look at all this stuff. And sorry, that's the wife. They want to look at, yeah, she's like, you're over. It's like if people call me like, hey, I just want you to analyze this for me. Can you tell me? And I give them the choice. You want a hard pull or a soft pull? Personally, you should take the hard pull, because are you going to go have 7 other lenders pull it in a 30-day window? If you do, you're an idiot. Or you pick 7 morons. Hopefully, if you pick the 1 or 2 right people, you should be fine. You should pick someone competent. You know, if you talk to someone on the phone and they don't sound competent, or they're selling you the whole time, pick someone else. You know, ideally pull 3 bureaus, look at it. I can give you the credit report. You can do what you want with it. But if you lose that credit report, man, you might as well just give away your life, because our credit report is your life. But we do soft pulls too. Done. Questions? Addressing?
You guys had great questions throughout.